What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, Vince Moiso here from the CEO Podcast. I'm here as always with Scott DeLong. And man, we are well into season 3 at this point,
Yeah,
Scott.
we are.
I feel like it's flying by. We're enjoying the weather in San Clemente, and I never get tired of that. This view doesn't get old
Nope,
either.
that doesn't get old either.
Admittedly. Today we're going to talk about a very serious topic and dear to me as well, because I have a lot of it going on around me. But I think in the world today, whether you're talking about your business, whether we're talking about young students, from high school to college and beyond, lots happened in the last couple of years, and we've got this increasing rate of anxiety and depression that's happening almost at an alarming level. And I can tell you, organizations, for the most part, institutions to businesses, aren't equipped to deal with it. And it's a challenge. And I find myself as a business leader challenged with it, because I know it's a very real thing that's happening. And we've got, a lot of people that are just struggling with an extreme amount of anxiety, and they're not, they don't know how to handle it, and a lot of people don't have the infrastructure, so they might not have the family unit or the friends that they feel like they can talk to, so they don't have this group, or they may not know how to reach out for therapy, or they just don't have the resources maybe to help just talk through it, or build the skill set or the coping mechanisms to get through it. And then I find myself as a business owner and a business leader is, how flexible should I be?
Two things, right?
With
First of all,
employees?
what is your role, and how flexible can you afford to be while still being this
It's a great point,
this
Scott.
leader that the leader of people.
What is my role,
Right.
right? And how far do I take that?
Sure.
Where at what point can I feel good about taking off my president hat and just be there for somebody?
Because listen, we are not mental health professionals.
No.
However, we understand people
Yeah.
and what people need. I think all this comes around. I mean, there's been all kinds of different stresses with the generations coming up that, I've heard it from when my kids were just getting through college and all that, the amount of stress and tension that I didn't understand. I said, get over it, right? Was not the right approach. Just saying.
No.
That's not the right approach. It's real to them. But lately, in the past 3 years now, with the pandemic, the work from home, I really believe it's centered around being lonely, the feeling of being alone. We talked a little bit about this the other day in the quiet quitting episode.
Yeah.
And as a risk to the organization, because if they don't feel engaged and if they're alone, they're probably out looking for some tribe somewhere with another organization. They've got plenty of time to do that. But this is a little bit deeper than that. This has to
Way
do
deeper.
with people that want to be engaged. They want to perform. They want to do things, but the stresses that they're feeling, whether it's work or home life or whatever, and the isolation that they're feeling.
Yep.
My opinion, again, not a mental health professional, but I think it's based on isolation. So what do we do?
Yeah.
I think it's the same answer.
Well, no, I know for a fact that organizations, again, through my own experience, I know for a fact organizations, institutions are dealing with it at alarming rates, and they're not equipped to deal with it. And it's just a fact of what we're dealing with. I think it's COVID related, but goes even, prior to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think COVID just exacerbated the issue. I think it was there, but you bring up a couple of things that are really interesting to me. One is our generation, right? We grew up in just a different way. Like it was all about grit. It was all about grin and bear it.
Bootstrap. Pull yourself up the
no
bootstraps.
complaint.
Get over
You
it.
don't cry.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
pick yourself up. You get hit. You pick yourself up off the ground, and you keep going, and you just figure it out. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
It was when my parents said no, it was because I said so, right? There's no explanation that followed it.
Didn't have to explain their why.
Yeah, no. When I got hurt or something happened or I did something wrong, there was no explanation as to what I should do better. It was just quit complaining, kid, and it was
So playing ball, we had a saying, like somebody get hit by a pitch, and 93-mile-an-hour fastball, you get hit in the side. The guys would say to you this exact line: tape an aspirin to it, meaning move on. Like, it's only going to hurt for a little while. Get over it.
Great. Where was the coaching? By the way, I got hit by one of those. It doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good
by any stretch.
But tape an aspirin to it. You'll be all right.
It's so funny you bring that up. Is that I was never coached on really how to avoid that. In fact, I was coached to lean into it.
Yeah.
And when I think back to that, I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? Okay,
it's a free base. It's a free base.
Remember, take one for the team.
That's right.
What? Are you kidding me? So
yeah,
it's a
that
great
doesn't
analogy.
exist today.
No, it doesn't. Nor should it.
Nor should it. Right.
And I think what we're dealing with today is that, or I've heard the term quite a bit. I was having a conversation today about it. Is this just compartmentalize it? You haven't figured out how to compartmentalize. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but when you have stuff going on mentally, physically, whatever it is that's going on in your life, you can't just leave it at the door when you walk into the office. Or if you're working from home, you're supposed to just get on this virtual call. You're supposed to get on Teams or Zoom with a smile on your face and just pretend that nothing's going on. Yeah. Sorry, that really doesn't work. It only makes it worse, in my opinion. Then you start to really build up, and that loneliness that you're talking about gets even worse.
So let's talk about it. So you're two things: responsibility. So what is your role in this, and what should you be doing? I'm going to say flat out how most organizations handle this. They push this problem off to the HR director.
Yeah.
They're not equipped for it either. I'm sorry. They're not mental health experts either. This is somebody that you know intimately, someone that works for you. You should know them intimately. I'm not talking enough, right? Should know them well enough that you can be a resource. And that resource is empathy. Empathy.
Well, where
do
I
understand where they're coming from?
So Scott, I hear what you're saying, and at what point does that cross a line?
Yeah, well, business still has to operate, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't need that person, I wouldn't have hired that person, and they're unavailable because of the stresses and the whatever it is that's going on in their lives, and this is where coaching comes in first, right? You've got to, I believe, we have to coach people through things, and sometimes that coaching is just listening to them and hearing them and letting them have a place to get it off their chest. Now, you cannot continue to coach people that are not reacting either.
Yeah.
There comes a point where it's time to say, this is no longer good for it's not good for the business anyway, but we can no longer afford this, and you have to make a call at some point to say, this is beyond our abilities. What I've seen people do, and this happens a lot when people are doing in addiction issues, right?
Yeah.
Is company tries to work with somebody and be soft landing for them. It doesn't work. The company then offers a 28-day stay somewhere, right? Hey, we have insurance and we'll supplement that, and we're going to hold your job for you. And if that person continues to falter, the company's not going to do it forever.
Yeah.
It can't afford to.
Yeah.
And that's got to be understandable. So this is different than that, yet it's the same. What you're talking about is this anxiety and depression. It's different than alcoholism or drug addiction. Yes, it is. But it's not that much different. You're still dealing with the hearts and the minds of the people that are working for you.
Well, I think the biggest difference is it's mental health. I mean, let's just go back a second. I discovered therapy several years ago, and that was a dirty word in my house growing up. I mean, therapy meant there was something wrong with you. I think having to
see someone,
having to go see somebody was just this faux pas. It had a total stigma around it, and I think when I got to tell you, the first time I walked in with a therapist, I was scared, and I really didn't know what to expect. I thought I was just going to get a total beatdown of what was wrong with me and all that. It was just the opposite.
Yeah.
And
they're
honestly,
asking you.
it's like when you and I are talking about coaching. I lean on you for a number of things. It's no different than when I'm sitting in my forum with my EO forum mates.
Exactly the same.
And I'm doing an update and a presentation. It's actually just like that.
Yeah.
And I was completely blown away because it was so far from this vision that I was provided about therapy that I went back and multiple times, and there's nothing wrong with it. Therapy is such a good thing, and if you get with the right therapist, honestly, I wish it wasn't even called therapy. I wish they weren't called therapists. They should be called coaches.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did. He did for me. He really coached me through a very, very tough time.
Allowed you to find the answers that were within
Absolutely
you already.
Did. Absolutely
which is
did.
coaching. Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was amazing to come away with, having a new skill set. I found Landmark Worldwide, where I got to go through some self-development. What I didn't realize at the time is I had packed away all this guilt and shame over my dad's death and the way that I was super young and, just for lack of being there and then continuing with all this, I had just an immense amount of guilt. I had all this resentment for my parents for moving me away from Southern California. I mean, I could just pile on and on
Sure,
and on.
absolutely.
And it was funny. I remember the first night of doing the Landmark Forum, and I felt so great because I had got up in front of everybody and I unpacked a bunch of things. Then I woke up the next morning only to find that was just the surface. Like I had unpacked a few things only to find that there was a piano and a bunch of stuff underneath that piano that I was dragging with me.
Sure.
And anyway, it was really
it's not a one and done kind of thing. What you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
But it was the start of a healing process
Sure.
for me. And I think if I learned
recognition, understanding, then healing.
anything,
It goes into that kind of order.
Yeah.
We have to recognize it first, right?
Yeah.
Have to understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
And look at it objectively.
Yeah.
And say, well, that was then.
Yeah.
Here's what's happening now.
Yeah.
And then you have the opportunity to heal. Forgiveness is in there sometimes. There's all kinds of techniques that people can use. What's interesting when you're talking about when you use the word therapy and match that with coaching, I've had 4 clients now, 4 different clients say the same thing.
Yeah.
This is like business or a therapy for business.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just call it coaching? It's a lot easier to go to see a coach than it is to go see a therapist.
It is, no
Right?
question.
So I like that analogy. So find somebody. So here's how people I find things in steps. When we're suffering, the first place I go would be the person that's closest to me. In my case, would be my wife. Right. So I'm going family first.
Yeah.
Second thing is where I'm going to go and talk to my friends. Third thing was then I'd bring it to my employer. If my friends and family aren't there, I'd want my employer to be there for me. So what's your role? Secondary, right? You're not primary. You're not the primary, even though it affects you tremendously as a business owner, but as a secondary role of being a supportive human to help people unlock and discover. That's what I think. That's what you can do. How far do you do it? I don't know, right? Until you can't. I like to say things, well, how often do you have to try this? You got to do it until. Well, in this case, when you're talking about paying someone to not be there and all that, you do it until you can't. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then you try to, then what I would do is I'd try to help that person find somebody more qualified than me for that next step.
I think one of the challenges, Scott, that certainly I've learned is that the drive of a human being to not look bad, to not be judged, is greater than a desire to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that becomes one of the biggest challenges that anybody that's dealing with mental health, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that just remain quiet about it, and there's people around us that we don't even know because they mask it so well, and they're just afraid to ask for help because that drive to not look bad is so strong that they're just afraid to ask for help. And I think we've got to get in this mode. I mean, if I would offer any just very strict advices, you have to ask for help. You have to ask. And I think the people that I know around me that have gotten through their own mental health issues have asked for help.
I agree, because if I tell you you need help, you're going to get defensive and you're going to push back and say, no, I'm good, right?
That's not it.
So having a caring boss, so it's called a caring boss, see that somebody's struggling and offer the help is not nearly as powerful as that person have taken the time to ask for help.
Yeah.
So if you're in that spot, ask for help. Family, friends, employers, these are people that care for you. Even employers care for you. Ask for help.
Well, then I would say this.
Who's going to run from that?
And I'm a culprit of this is for those that aren't going through anything necessarily, but may
or aren't admitting they're going through something,
but may have people around them, right?
Yeah.
And you got to pay attention. And if someone's asking you for help, you better help them. And if you're not the one equipped to help them, then maybe you can experience share or help find somebody that can help them.
Yeah.
So you're not helpless, right? You're not void. I think any one person is not void of having the ability to help others. So I think sometimes we think they're asking us directly for that help, and we may not be equipped to do that.
Yep.
Or may feel comfortable. We may not even feel comfortable to help in that regard. But you can find help. You can help them find the help that they need.
So I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because I may not be comfortable providing you the answers, but I am comfortable about hearing your story.
I can listen.
Right? So I can do something, even though I can't solve the problem, or I don't have the skill set to be able to give you the right answers. The answers are within anyway.
Well, and sometimes, Scott, I think that's all anybody wants is just for somebody to listen to what they've got going on. Sometimes they just need to get it off their chest and say it out loud. And I think if you can be a good listener for somebody, that's enough.
Know that somebody cares, willing to take the time to hear them.
Yeah.
And not judge them. I remember the story I told you the other day. I purposely put myself out there for a client that was having difficulty with this whole judgment thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The person that well, why can't you just do that? Right? It's simple. No, it's easy. It's not. No, they say it's simple because it's not easy. So I put myself out there for them. During a coaching session, I talked about a situation that I'm not very good at.
Yeah.
And I looked at this person and I said, it was on Zoom, so you couldn't see what's underneath my computer. But I said, you think I'm put together, right? Yeah, I do. Organized, all that. Yeah, got my shit together. She goes, yeah, I do. I said, well, if I turned the camera around and showed you my desk, your opinion of me would change completely. And this person was mad at me. Why can't you just do that? I had 3 books piled up on the side over here, and I had some papers that I've been writing on for the last 2 days sitting over here, and the desk was a mess because of it, right? There's more stuff than that, but
why can't you
just do that? It's simple.
It is simple.
It is simple. Take those 3 books and put them on that bookshelf where I know they go.
I know.
Well, guess what I did? So I committed to him. I said, listen, I'm going to do that. I'm going to clean my desk today. I know it's the right thing.
How forced did that feel?
Well, so here's the problem. This person texted me. I sent a picture of my desk before and after, and the person said to me, how good does that feel? And you know what my answer was? It didn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
And the reason it didn't feel good to me is because I was shamed into doing something that wasn't important to me at the time, and only did it because of the shame. Brene Brown talks about her work in shame, and that is not a good thing. Well, was it okay for this person to point out to me that It's not a difficult task. I can help you walk you through this. A clean desk is better than a disorganized. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like critique and knowing when you could do better. But the shame that went with it didn't feel good. So there's a point where you can, it's just easy, just do that. Like lift yourself up, do all those kind of things. Is not the right approach. It doesn't help people.
Well,
my desk got clean and I felt worse.
Well, and in fact, Scott, it's a great story that you tell, and thank you for sharing that. I think therein lies why it can be so challenging for people to get vulnerable. And so someone might feel a high level of anxiety or might be going through depression, and they don't want to share it.
They don't want to be judged.
Because they don't want to be judged.
Yeah, they don't want to be judged.
And so it becomes really challenging for people to get vulnerable in that way. So I think the lesson from that, and hearing you talk about it, and we did talk about that before, and I listened with a very, very different ear to the way you said that there. And reality is I think if you're in the position to just listen, you got to really listen. You got to listen without judging. You got to listen without wanting to respond or to defend or do anything. Is just listen. And I think oftentimes, I think people that are in that situation just want to be heard.
They don't want your advice.
They don't want any advice.
So that's what we learned in EO, the Gestalt Language Protocol, which is to share from experience as opposed to giving people advice. And back when I first started, I want you to tell me what should I do? What do you think I should do? And that is the exact wrong approach. It is. And here's why. So I didn't understand this because these are smart people. They can help me, right? Well, the fact of the matter is that I'm probably not, if there's 6 people around the room, I'm probably not going to take all their advice. And they're going to be pissed off at me for not taking it. I asked you for it. You gave it to me. So that's why we don't do that, right? What we can do is hear their story and share an experience that felt the same. Didn't have to be the same, but it felt the same. That's where empathy comes in. I understand, or I think I understand what that feeling is. Here's what happened to me. How close is that to what you're feeling? That's a conversation. I'm not telling you what to do, how to do it, any of that. I'm hearing and sharing back.
And then I get what I get.
You get what you get.
And that's the end of it.
And you're pretty, most of the people we deal with, pretty intelligent, well-mannered adults. They can handle that. They know the solution. But like you said, it's buried under all that stuff, right? You got to unleash the mounds of things, and they unleash it with people hearing them, but listening.
So Scott, I'm let's get back to this role or responsibility.
You want some advice?
No,
I'm sorry, I can't do that.
I think what I'm hearing and talking through is I think we're walking on new ground. I think there isn't any sort of precedent that has been set where we could say, hey, do this and don't do that. I
don't know if it's new ground, but it's a new awareness of the ground.
Sure. New awareness is a better way to say it. It's like a tremendous amount of awareness around what's going on. That being said, I think it's largely ignored because we don't know what to do about it.
Right. And
I don't know that there's a clear-cut answer. I'd love to say, hey guys, this is what you should be doing in that situation. Unfortunately, I don't think it's that simple. I think every situation is going to vary. I think if there's a takeaway from anything that we're talking about right now is just recognizing and the awareness that it's happening, and don't ignore it. And I think we've got to pull in whatever resources we have to help that person. If we care enough about our people, which we do, then we're going to make every effort, right, to help that person just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, not only the right thing to do, but it also helps your business too. I'm sorry, it does. So care about my business, and therefore I need to care about the people that are running that operation for me.
Yeah.
And when they're struggling, they're not going to be as good for that business too. So you can take a selfish look about it if you choose, if that's what motivates you to be there for people, or you can say it's the right thing to do on a human level.
Yeah.
On a human level, right? And how far? Again, that I don't have the answer to that, right? How much can you allow someone not to be there, not to show up, not to do their job, and continue to get paid and all that. That's a struggle, right? I will tell you though that the government is telling you need to do more than we used to. You know, the family leave plan, the FMLA, I guess it's called.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You gotta
Family
give
leave act. Yeah.
Right. So you got to give people the opportunity to take care of their issues, whether it's family leave or mental health leave or whatever it's going to be. You got to give the people the opportunity, and especially here in California. So even if you're not the type to be touchy-feely, right? Sorry, it's the law. You're going to have to give people the opportunity to get better. Why not assist them in that? So for me, it's as simple as this. We talked the other day about management by walking around, right? Walking around and seeing, and on Zoom, wherever I'm walking around, seeing people, and it could be as simple as this. When I see that you're struggling, how you doing? Just put a hand on a shoulder, right? Yeah, I get that can be weird in today's world too, when it's appropriate. But if not, say, no, I'm curious. How are you doing?
Yeah.
How can I help? Best question in the world. How can I help?
Yeah.
And be sincere about it.
Yeah.
Like, people will fluff it off the first time. I had a friend. Actually, he was a guest here. Warren Taylor was going through the cancer. I don't know if you remember back in season 2. Warren's going through the cancer. We're at a Christmas party, fun event at his house, and I could tell there was something wrong.
Yeah.
So I pulled him aside and I said, "How can I help?" He goes, "No, I got it." And he just looked him in the eye. "How can I help?" And I sat there and I waited for the answer. Ended up big, strong dude, tear coming down his eyes, and just appreciated the fact that somebody was there that was willing to. He didn't need anything from me.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me to do a damn thing. But knowing that somebody cares, whether it's your friend, your boss, doesn't matter who it is.
Well,
knowing
the
that somebody cares
thing
matters.
is, Scott, is that you recognized it, because I bet you no one else recognized it that night, and I think that's what happens.
Or if they did, they were afraid of it, because that's a tough.
They might have
tough conversation.
They
too.
might have, and
Sure.
were unwilling to have that tough conversation. But I think that is the point. I think there's a lot of ignoring that's happening, and I think beyond that, I think there's people that just are afraid to ask that tough question.
Yeah.
Because
they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And what I'm suggesting is what to do is just listen.
Yeah, you don't have to know what to
them.
do. To ask somebody how you can help, you don't have to know what to do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it'll only require you just listening.
Yeah, simple as that. It's not easy. It's simple, and it may not be all the solutions, but it's a good start. And as business owners, and when our people are struggling, that question, sincerely posed, will help. And it may not be enough. It may not solve their problems, right? They may need to get a professional beyond you.
Yeah.
But what does it cost you to give that an effort? What's the downside?
No, there is no downside. Well, listen, guys, the problem is real. I'm sure many of you can relate to having to deal with that, either in your own lives or with your business or organizations. And so find the help. I think there's a lot of help that's out there. And I think at the most, if you take away anything from today, is just be aware of what's going on around you, and don't be afraid to ask somebody how you can help. And if you're going through something on your own, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You'd be surprised at how many people within your communities are going to be very, very willing to help you. All right, well, Scott, I appreciate that conversation. As I said at the beginning, very near and dear to my heart. And so I think that's a serious conversation that everybody should be having right now.
Yeah. Well, so my takeaway is this, and it is really simple. And I don't care what station in life you're in, whether you are at the lowest rung of the organization, you're the CEO, or anywhere in between, your most important position in the organization is to be a human being.
Yeah, well said. All right, guys. Well, as always, you can find us on YouTube. If you prefer to watch, please follow us on or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch us on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, and all the regular channels. We appreciate you listening, and as always, provide us any feedback. We love to get new topics. You can reach out to us at scottandvince@gmail.com. Until next time, Scott.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net. where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.